So I'm adding a button here. For this button, I'm going to give the name as up, and I can also define an action key. That means, so when I press a button in the keyboard, uh, this will activate this specific button. So I'm going to give W here. So that means whenever I press W in my keyboard, it's going to press this button. So I can click on this button also, or I can use the keyboard. So I'm using W here because this WASD key combination is very common in with some of the video games where we have to control the player character using the left hand, and we have to do other actions from the right hand using the mouse and mouse buttons. So I'm going to use up, left, right, and down buttons here. So I'm going to create more buttons like that. So there's another button called left. This is my left button, and my action key should be character A. So you can see the character A is placed here, and there will be another button called right, and action key should be character D, and I'm going to add another button called down, and the action key should be S. Remember, we didn't give any commands here, we only gave the display names. And we can right click here and select and align these buttons in a way that we like to have it. So like this, I'm aligning buttons. Okay, now I have 4 of my buttons here.
But remember, we didn't give any commands here, so we are going to define these commands as procedures. So let's go to the code tab again. So here I'm going to say to, and my procedure name is go up, and I'm going to have 2 procedures, like 4 procedures like this. So let's copy and paste from here. And there's another procedure to go down, go left, and go right. So right now our player is in XY coordinates 40 and 5. So if it has to go forward, so that means we have to increment Y coordinates. So inside this go up method, so I am going to write some code to increase the Y coordinates. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to say, okay, ask players set Y coordinates and here I'm going to add numbers to Y coordinate. So we can have a bracket here for to make it clear. So what I'm doing is I'm going to set Y coordinates, and in NetLogo we do not use the equal sign to set values to variables. So instead we just use a space, and we have to use a command called set here. So then what we are telling here is I want to set my Y coordinates and I want to increment it one by one whenever this go up procedure is executed. So let's see how it works.
Now let's try to configure one of these buttons. So let's select the up button, and I'm going to press edit, and under commands I'm going to give a procedure name which is go up, and let's see what's going to happen when we press this up button.
And let's see how it works. So I press the setup button. When I press this up button, now you can see my aircraft is moving up. Now in this code tab, so I'm going back to the code tab. So I can copy and paste this code portion, and I can modify it based on the direction. So go down means we have to decrement y coordinates. So here I'm going to add minus instead of plus. Go left means, so if you have look at this environment, so 0 0 is in the bottom left corner, right? So whenever we want to go left, we have to decrement x coordinates. Whenever we want to go right, we have to increment x coordinates. So let's do that. Go left means x coordinates, we are going to we are going to decrement x coordinates. Whenever we want to go to y, we are going to whenever we are going to right, so we are going to increment the x coordinates. Now you may be wondering, like, how do I know these commands? So what I did was I went through the sample models available in NetLogo models library, and I got to know about these commands. Also, when you search in Google, for example, if you want to see how we can like change the shape, you just type NetLogo space shape, and that will go to a very rich API document of NetLogo that we can use to learn the syntax of each and every command available or keywords available in NetLogo. Also, there's another thing, like you can type few letters and you can press control space, and it's going to auto populate some of the commands here. So that's also another way to do that. For example, so here I can use that feature to get the required commands. Okay,
now let's configure rest of the buttons. First let's edit the left button. Right click on that left button and press edit. So here under commands we can say go left. So this is the procedure name that we defined in the code tab. So press OK, and in the right button we can say go right, and in the down button we can give a command called go down.
Okay, now let's see what happens. I press the setup button. Now it's in bottom of the screen. When I press up, it's moving forward, and down, it's going down. Right, it's moving right, and left, it's moving left side. I can do the same thing by moving keys from the keyboard. So you will see, so when I press the keyboard key, so here it's the button is a little bit blinking. So it's working now. But one thing is, it's not realistic to move an aircraft like that. Ideally, we should change the heading of this aircraft. So that means when I'm moving right, this airplane should rotate right. So we can make that change also. So that means whenever it's going up, we can say set heading to 0. Whenever it's going down, we can say set heading to 180 degrees. Whenever it's going left, we can either say set heading to 270 degrees, or we can say minus 90 also, because our north is 0, minus 90 is west direction. So in a similar way, when we want to go right, we can say heading is plus 90. Now let's try it again. I'm pressing setup button. I think these buttons became red color, so that means something's wrong. So let's go and check our code here. Okay, so the reason is I put this code directly inside the procedure. When I say set heading, this code doesn't know who should change the direction, right? Because ideally this set heading should be specific to the players. So because of that, I should put that set heading command inside ask players bracket, not outside. So now I am going to do that, because NetLogo doesn't know what is the turtle or agent that we are talking about unless we put it inside these brackets. So that's why it was showing the buttons in red color. So that's a good indication to see that something is wrong. Okay, now I press the check button. Now interface looks good. Now everything is in black color again. So I press the setup button. Now I'm moving forward. See, now when I'm moving right, it's heading the right direction. When I'm moving left, it's heading the left direction. When I'm going down, or when I'm going backwards, it's heading this direction. Okay, now it's good. Next we'll see how we can use some other things to control this aircraft. So one thing we want to do is we want to have a way for aircraft to look at mouse direction. That means while we are doing this, we want to shoot other enemy aircraft, right? So we are going to do that using the mouse. But whenever I move this mouse, I want my player aircraft to change the direction to look at the mouse pointer. So let's see how we can do that. So to that, so what I'm going to do is I am going to define a play button. So we already have a play button here. So now I want to have some actions which are going to execute every time. So that means every time when I'm moving mouse, this aircraft should look at that. And for that, I'm going to use this play button, and I'm going to set up. So I'm going to write a new procedure called play. It can be any name. It can be go or execute or anything. But usually, since this is a game, I'm going to use the word play. So what I'm going to do here is, so let's see what is the command that I can use here. So I can say something like ask players and what should I ask players? Face XY coordinates. What XY coordinates? It should be mouse XY coordinates. So that means mouse X coordinates and mouse Y coordinates. Now, this is how we can ask our players to change the direction based on the mouse coordinates. And let's assume that we have too many players. Like now we only created one player, but we can create like 2 to 3 players or 10 players, anything like that. So when we do this, all those players will change their direction to face the mouse coordinates.
Now we are going to configure our play button to call our newly created procedure called play. Now to do that, we have to edit this play button, and as a command we can say play, because we have already defined a procedure named play, and whenever we press this play button, it's going to call this play procedure. And there's one specific thing that we have to do with this play button. So that means, so here there's a checkbox called forever. So we are going to check that checkbox. So then this button becomes a forever button. So as you can see in the UI, now there is a symbol here which is an indication of a forever button. So what happens is, when we press this button once, it's going to repeatedly call this play procedure every time. That means it's more like a cycle, like with every tick. So in NetLogo we call one cycle a tick. So in every tick it's going to call this play method or play procedure, and everything inside that play method is going to get executed in an infinite loop. So if you want to stop it, we have to press the play button again. So that means we can define all our agent rules or any rule that should be executed frequently inside this play procedure. So now we have defined our play button and we can press OK.
So let's try to set up, and when I say play, now as you can see, now here it's moving towards the mouse direction. At the same time, I can move it using keys, but mouse direction also get some attention. So here using mouse also I can rotate it, but if I press the keyboard, it's again moving, but again it's heading the mouse direction. Right. So there's another thing you should notice. So if I move outside this environment, the aircraft is going to appear from the other side. So that's also there. But you can change it. So I can stop this play button by clicking on it again. So now it's not moving towards the mouse direction, because now it's not in that infinite loop. So usually in video games, sometimes we have a big loop like this, which is going through many executions and check if there are any collisions happening, or like are we satisfying the winning condition, etc. So this play procedure is similar to that. So here, if you want to avoid this aircraft from going outside these boundaries, we should make one small modifications to the environment settings. So here we should go to the environment settings, and so here, so you can see there are two checkboxes, one called word traps horizontally, the other one called word traps vertically. So the meaning of these two settings are when there's a character here, if the word wraps horizontally, what happens is when the character moves towards right,
Finally, it continues to come from the other side of the environment because it's more like the right side edge of this square is connected with the left side. So it's like word wraps horizontally. In a similar way, when we have this word wraps vertically checked here, so if our player character is going beyond the upper edge, so it's coming back from the lower edge. So to avoid this, so we should uncheck these two checkboxes and press OK. Now let's make some modifications in our code to avoid our player aircraft from moving outside the world. So that means it should not go beyond the borders of this square. So how to do that? So if we have a look at the code, now you will see there are four procedures. One to go up, and another one to go down, and another one to go left, and there's another one to go right. So here we are asking the players to set the coordinates. I mean, either increment it or decrement it without really considering about the borders of the world. So what we can do is we can have an if condition here to give some additional logic related with the maximum or minimum coordinates of the world. For example, here what we can say is if y coordinate is less than maximum py coordinates. So those are keywords in NetLogo. And what we can say is okay, then only set this y coordinate, then only increment this y coordinate. So that means if until it reaches the maximum y coordinate, continue to increment. So now let's try this code here. So I'm setting up the play button. So let's see what happens. So here, even though I continue to press up button, it's not going there. So that means it stopped incrementing after it reached the maximum y coordinate. So we can do the same thing for other procedures also. So I'm going to copy this if condition, and so if you think about going down, what we have to do here is in going down procedure, what we have to do is if y coordinate is greater than minimum py coordinate. So because it's decrementing and it should not decrement like below minimum y coordinate. So let's check it again. So here now it's not going beyond the lower border. So we can do the same thing for go left and go right. It's not necessary to like add any spaces or tabs here, but to make this code more readable, it's better to do that. So here we are talking about x coordinate and we are talking about going left. So that means we have to check if x coordinate is greater than minimum x coordinate. If that's the case, decrement, otherwise don't decrement. So we are going to do the same thing for go right procedure also. Right. So let's check how it works. Now I'm going up. Okay, it doesn't go beyond the upper border. Okay, left is also good. Right is also good. Down is also good.